and welcome to the Amy Edwards Show. I'm your host, Amy Edwards, and I'm very excited about today's episode because we are going to talk about how to pitch to be on a podcast, how to send your email, what it should say, and a little bonus at the end, how to be a great guest, and just some tips that I have learned. If you're new to this show, hi, welcome. All are welcome. I am so excited that you're here. I am constantly working to be my next best self, to enjoy life more, to find inner peace and happiness. And that's what this show is all about. It's about efficient and effective ways to build habits and find our happiest self at absolutely any age. I am 51 years old, turning 52 in just a couple weeks, actually. And I'm determined. I'm all about it. And so that's what these shows are. They're about like, take what works for you and leave the rest and find what's your path. And the reason I'm doing this particular episode is because I feel like I've had a lot of people ask, and something happened to kick it, but I'll get to that. And so I am qualified to talk about how to pitch for a podcast because I have had podcasts for about 10 years now, this particular one for almost 4, 3 3/4. And I have over 30 years in radio, on air, and off and on. I'm not working in radio right now, but I love it. And I'm a total voice nerd. I do freelance voice work. And I've been a guest on many podcasts as well. So I am excited to delve into this. So I see a ton of pitches, like a ton. It has picked up, I would say, in the last year where I see them all the time. And so when you read an article on how to pitch for a podcast, it might be from a PR person or something like that, but are they actually seeing pitches? Like I'm telling you, seeing pitches. I see what works. I see what doesn't. And that's where this guide comes from. It is real experience of seeing pitches. If you see me looking off to the side, I'm reading my notes because I got a lot of notes to go over today. And I have created a little free guide for you to download with this episode so you can have examples, you can copy and paste and make it your own. You can remember, and you don't have to take all the notes as you're listening to this, but you can too. You can take notes too. And I want to say, if you are listening to this and you feel like, what do I have to offer for a podcast? We're going to cover a little bit of that too. And if you listen to an episode I did a couple weeks ago about everyone has a story and how to tell your story, everybody has something to offer. You can be a valuable guest. It just takes a little bit of work. Some people are further along. Some people have lots of experience and have been on 200 podcasts, right? My fiance is a good example of that. He has so much experience. He could just be on a podcast at the drop of a hat and kill it. But some people, maybe you're just starting out, and that doesn't mean you won't be a great guest. And it's important to do those reps, to put in the reps. So how are you going to pitch? How are you even going to get on a podcast, right? So that's what we're going to do today. I've been meaning to do this episode for like years, I think, maybe 2 years, but I think the timing's so much better now because I see so many more pitches these days, and I can tell at least what works for me. And we're all busy people, so people go through them really fast. And so you're writing for a skimmer, probably, and so most likely. And so I can tell you what's going to work. And I am going to give you examples today. And of course, I've got the guide made for you too. But what really prompted me today was I had a pitch come across that was a really not good pitch. And like one where when I read it, I was actually offended. Right? And so you know what? I ended up replying. It was all I could do not to send a very sassy reply, but I was like, you know what? You're a somewhat public figure. Don't do that. Don't put that in writing. So I sat on it for like a day and I was like, what am I to say? And so I think I replied and said something like, well, I've got it to kind of go over with you. I said, as someone who sees many pitches, let me know if you want feedback from a podcaster on how to create a great podcast pitch. This one isn't it. and wishing you well, but I'm passing. And so I think I was trying to graciously say, what in the world? Because I felt like they needed to know this was a bad pitch. And it wasn't from the guest, it was from a representative. So let's go over it. What was so bad about this pitch? So I'm really happy they sent it. You know what? I'm happy because it's a learning moment for all of us, right? And it got me to do this. And so hopefully, I haven't replied and given them the feedback because I just decided to do this episode instead. So first of all, let's go over this bad pitch real quick. So the title started it off all wrong. The title said, podcast interview opportunity. It used my first name, Amy, but it said, Amy, podcast interview opportunity. And then it said the guest's name. So I'm like, wait, what? Do they want me on a podcast or I'm confused. So I'm already starting off confused. And so that's not good. And so I open it and then it says, we're thrilled to invite you to a special podcast interview opportunity with so-and-so to discuss this book or whatever. And I'm like, okay. And then it actually has the pronouns wrong too, which is weird. It's like mixed pronouns throughout it. And so then I realized that they're considering this interview an opportunity for me. I'm like, what? Why is this an opportunity for me? Am I supposed to know who this person is? I have no clue who this is. I mean, an opportunity for me would be like Oprah, yeah, if Oprah's people were like, we have a podcast opportunity for you, it's with Oprah. And I would be like, yeah, that's an opportunity for me. You're right. Totally an opportunity for me. But this, no. And so right out of the gate, it's about them and it's about how they're giving me an opportunity, which is wild to me. That's like somebody knocking on your door and being like, hey, I've got this magnificent opportunity for you. And you're like, what? No, you showed up in my inbox. What are you talking about? So, next, there is no introduction of this guest. So now I'm wondering, who is this? Is this a real housewife? Is this someone I'm supposed to know who the hell this is? I have no clue. And they just acted like I should know who this is and like why I should care. And so now I'm intrigued for all the wrong reasons at this point. I'm like, what? And let me add, I was reading this. I think I read this on my phone first. The fonts were tiny and they were not the same size. We are going to cover that. Keep your fonts the same size. God, I hate emails where fonts are all over the place. They're unreadable, and that's a strike against you, right? And I don't even know if it's 3 strikes you're out. And 1 font strike is like equivalent to 3 strikes. So, okay. So that said, so they're acting like so the fonts are over, and then they've got bullet points that are scattered around. Some were really tiny, and they weren't uniform. It was like too much spacing. It was just really difficult to read. So that's a problem too, in which we're going to talk about readability. It also talked about this new book that this person has with no link, no information about the book, no link to a website, no social media links, none. So then I see and I understand that they were offering an incentive, which is a free book, which I don't even know what this book's about. And then, this is great. Then they said spots are super limited, so apply. And if you're selected. So now they're telling me like I have to apply. Like, what is happening here? And then at the bottom, they, signed off and then they said, P.S., this offer is legit. Feel free to DM me on Instagram to validate this offer at whatever their at was. And so I was like, I gotta check this out, right? I'm like in the rabbit hole at this point. So I go to that Instagram, and y'all, I don't care if PR companies don't have a big following. I do not care. It doesn't matter to me. But they literally had 4 followers. I'm like, what? And I scroll down through the pictures, And the account was just started 10 days before that. So when I did this, that was July 31st. The first post was July 31st. And this is like August 10th. And I was like, no way. I'm like, if selected, what? So I don't know how this would ever work. I wonder if they got one response. It was offensive to me because I am over here working to create valuable content. And you show up and disregard all my content and act like you're doing me a favor. You are the one asking for something, not the other way around. You know, you are the one asking for something. So approach it from that angle, right? You're not doing me a favor by sending me the email, unless you're Oprah. Okay. Then you're doing me a favor. Fine. Oprah, I will treat that as such, or whoever, I don't know, Tony Robbins, Gwen Stefani, Gwen, come do my show. Okay, so let me take a sip of coffee here. Okay, so let's get into it now. I do reply with a stock answer to, we try to reply to every single pitch that we see, every single person that reaches out, and say something like, thank you so much for your submission. We will review it and let you know if it's a fit for the show. Thank you, Team Amy. So I always reply, and then I don't need a bunch of follow-ups. Like, we mean that. So that's something to think about too, and we'll cover that. So let's get back to your pitch. You're going to be amazing on podcasts, and you have something unique to offer. As I might have mentioned, like, I did an episode about your story and how to tap into that a few weeks ago, because I just learned a lot about coming from the heart. And so some people are further along with that and some people aren't. Again, you have something that makes you a great guest and unique. You just need to hone your skills a little bit. So when you're looking for podcasts to pitch to, you want to find something that's on your level, that kind of matches where you are. And I don't mean follower count, but I do mean level of exposure. Like, you're not going to go right out of the gate and go on Lewis Howes, right? Or Joe Rogan. So, you want to maybe get your feet wet first and really put in those reps. A good example of this is my friend Brigham Bueller. So Brigham founded a company called Ways to Well, and he was telling me and Justin about his company. He's so passionate about it and how he founded it and how he believes in disrupting the healthcare industry and what he's doing about that. And it's amazing. And I was like, we were like, you need to be on Rogan. And he was like, I'm so not ready for that. And I was like, well, you need to be on my podcast for sure. And so he was like, I'm nervous. I don't know what I'm doing. I've never been on a podcast. I think it was his first podcast. And I was like, that's okay. I got you. Like, I'm a good host. You're going to feel comfortable. It's just a conversation with me. And so we did it. And it was an excellent episode. He killed it. But during that, or I should say, during that, he was honing his message and able to get better. So he was able to listen back to that and see what worked and what didn't. And probably a year after that, I think, Justin introduced him to Rogan, and Joe invited him to be on the show, and it was a huge hit show for Joe. Like, huge. So thank you to them, because now Brigham is one of my best performing episodes still, because people go and search for him. And so you never know what's going to happen. And these reps that you do with different podcasts are going to give you more confidence in your voice, more confidence in your message, and your own area of expertise and what you can share with people. So that's kind of, what to look for as you're researching who you want to pitch to, because you don't want to just throw it out there to a zillion podcasts. You want to find the ones that are actually going to be a good match for you. And it's not that hard to do. You can go start searching and they will pop up. I mean, obviously mine's popping up for people all over the place. So, okay. Now I want you to prep. One of your little prep items is to think through your skill set. Like, what do you really love to talk about? And what's in your heart? What story can you tell that's going to have a bigger message? And then how can you get specific with that? You want to not have it too broad. Unique angles are great. I got a pitch not too long ago, and for some reason, I just instantly liked this person. I liked her. I liked her name. She just sounded cute. And yet her pitch was too broad. It was, it's like saying I'm a transformational life coach. I don't care about a transformational life coach. I've done that. What are you going to offer me that's a lot more specific that you do with somebody? That's what we need. We need that little specific something. Like for me, it might be, I'm a master at morning habits, something like that. And they've changed my life. So I might say, okay, I just made this up on the spot, but I might say, okay, this is what I'm going to put in my pitch. Or one of the items. You want to have a list. If you go to amyedwards.info and at the very bottom, I think it's at the very bottom, there's a media kit. And if you click on that, I have listed on there all of I'll put that link in, I'll make sure that link's in the guide for you to download, but I have a list of all the different topics that I can cover. But you could make a list like that. And then you want to get a little bit deeper, like maybe just a blurb. I don't even know that it needs to be a sentence, but a blurb about how you could cover that. And you want to keep it short. Okay. All right. So let's now get to the actual pitch itself. Once you've done your prep and you've thought about the podcast that you want to pitch to, you're going to, or maybe simultaneously, you're going to be writing your pitch, your email. So one of the pitch subject lines that caught my eye, I booked her immediately. I loved her, and she sent a fantastic pitch with a fantastic subject line. So I'm going to go over more on her pitch in just a little bit. Her name is Paige Pritchard, and she was a fantastic guest on the show. She's a spending coach. And so it said, her subject line said, your next unforgettable podcast guest. And then it had like an arrow emoji, Paige Pritchard, : stop impulse shopping and overspending for good. And then a few little cute emojis. And I was like, I'm interested. Sorry, my dog is sneezing in the background. I usually put her away for these, but I didn't today. She likes to be here, and now she's like very busy, very busy. That's Tipsy. Okay, so stop overspending for good. Okay, so I love this title because it's catchy. It's not arrogant. She didn't say your next amazing podcast. She said unforgettable, and I like that word. So I think that's a great one to use, or maybe you could get on your thesaurus and see what else kind of fits with that for maybe your brand. But that was catchy, not arrogant, and it's okay to have some fun and reflect your personality. That's going to catch the eye rather than a very dry pitch from a PR person, which I get those all the time, and they don't catch my eye. But if you really want to be on a podcast, coming from you holds some weight. I like it. So I don't know if this was directly from Paige. I don't know. Maybe it was a PR person writing for Paige and sending for Paige. Could be. But when they are being you and sending it in your voice, I think that's great, because it really adds that personal element to the person that you're pitching to. And personally, I like that. When I go in my folder to review guest requests, I love to see that. And this one will catch anybody's eye. So you want to have a little bit of something in your subject title. All right. So let's move on to the actual email itself. First and foremost, get your fonts together. Get them uniform. Get them simple. You can copy and paste. That's fine. But don't have it where it's like in a different sort of color or whatever. You know what I mean? Like how you can tell when something's copied sometimes because it's got that line on the left side. No. Pull that out, put it in a Word doc, copy and paste it again. Good Lord. Why is this so hard to do? Like, I can't tell you how many I see that just look just like crap, and I don't want to read that. And I know you haven't taken the time and you don't really care. That's what it reflects. Can you tell I get fiery about this? What the hell? All right. So copy and paste is fine. Just don't make it look copy and pasted, and get your fonts right and your bullets right. And don't let it look copied. Okay. Then you want to tailor it to the actual show you're aiming for. And if you mention it again later in the email, make sure you fix that. But don't just put it at the top. So when I say you want to tailor it to the actual show that you're aiming for, you want to be personal and put something in about that show and why you're a good fit for it, and that you understand what they talk about and why you're a good fit. But you don't want to spend too much time there, and you don't want to be fake. You don't want to be like, I love your show, when you've never even listened to an episode. Don't do that. It doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter. I really don't care if people have never listened to my show and they want to pitch. I don't care. It does not matter to me. If you would be a great guest and you found my show and you're like, oh, I have something to offer here, that's fine. I don't care. I'm not like all up in my ego about it. Maybe some podcasters are, but I really don't think it matters in a great pitch. So you want to be concise in your content. You want to be engaging, and you want to show and demonstrate the value that you're bringing to their audience and to this podcast. Overall, you're going to want to highlight your expertise and your relevant experiences and any unique perspectives or stories that you can share. And you want to clearly explain why you believe that you'd be a good fit for their audience and how your presence is going to benefit the podcast. Okay, so let's see. We're going to get more into that in just a minute. I'm going to go through that a little more clearly. But you want to remember that you're writing for a skimmer. I don't read every word. I get a lot. Most podcasts do. I would say it's rare if someone's going to take the time to read every word. They're not. They're going to skim. So keep that in mind. Does this look good for a skimmer? And are the things you want them to see going to catch their eye? Next, before we get into the content fully, follow the podcaster on Instagram. You don't have to listen to their show, but freaking follow them on Instagram. It takes no effort, or 2 seconds to follow them. But if they go look at your Instagram and it doesn't say follow back, I'm like, yeah, it was either a PR person that sent this or they don't care. They don't really want it, you know? No, I don't let it get to me. That's not a deciding factor for me. But if you really want it, it looks good. Follow them on Instagram. I don't understand why people don't. People have so much ego over who they follow on Instagram. I just find it so tired. But anyway, follow the podcaster. That's my recommendation as a podcaster. And highly likely that it's going to be a point in your favor. All right. Let's see. We talked about making connecting with the actual person, making it from you, even if it's your VA or your PR person. It's kind of nice to be from you. When I get it from a PR person and there's a big picture of the PR person at the bottom, I find it confusing and I don't like it. I don't care about the PR person. PR people love to promote themselves, and that is not effective to me. They'll have no pictures of the guest, but a picture of themselves. It's like, what are you doing? So who's my guest here? Okay. So let's see. Now let's get into the content. There can be too many words. Easy readability is key here. Remember, you're writing for skimmers. Do you read every word of every email? No, you don't. I have a feeling you laughed right then and were like, no. No, I never do. And yet when I'm writing one, I really take the time to write every word. So you've got to think about that. And you've got to have your links in there. Oh my God, I can't stress that one enough. If there are no links, unless it was that bad or that example that I used of a pitch that didn't work. I don't want to say bad. I don't want to shame them. Pitch shaming. I will not go down a rabbit hole and hunt for you. So make it easy. Put the freaking links in there. Okay. Sorry. I can't stress that one hard enough. Make it easy, 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 easy. Website, socials. LinkedIn is okay. It makes a difference. YouTube, whatever you've got, put it in there. Make it easy. All right. And I just want to say, don't say this. This is one thing that I don't like. I came across your podcast. No, don't say that. You didn't come across it. You didn't come across it. You researched and you found it. It's just that for some reason, I hate that. That could be purely just me, but don't put that in there. I came across your, it sounds like you're trying to be casual, but this is not casual. You want to be professional. You could still have fun with it. You can still reflect your personality, but you're asking me for something. So don't act like my podcast just was randomly something that you saw, even if it was. So you could say, I discovered your podcast. That works. I don't mind that. So, okay. So you want to get into your content here. Great subject line, meet so-and-so, your next unforgettable podcast guest, right? So that's exciting. I like that. Maybe an emoji that reflects something about what you offer. So you want to say a quick hello. We're getting into the content now, okay? So you want to say hello to the podcaster and team, perhaps, whatever. Then you want to jump right in and say the guest's name or your name and that you'd be a great fit for this show. You love X topics that are covered on the show. You could even insert a particular episode here, but only if you really mean it. You could say, I loved your episode about X, but really mean it. Don't just pull one randomly and say it, Or you could say something like, I resonate with a lot of the guests that you've had on the show, something like that. But it's not really necessary. Do some research and show about the show's topic or host and what they're all about. But that's all you need to do. And don't spend too much time here. It might look like ass kissing. There's like a balance that you've got to find there. I don't need to read too much. I need to know that you understand what the show's about and that you aren't just sending a stock email and have no clue, because I get those too. Like I got one not too long ago that was about it was some business thing. And it was just so, not that we don't talk about business on the show, we do, but it was just so not aligned. It sounded like something corporate and I was like, I think we sent our stock reply, but I'm never gonna do that. That was not a fit at all. So, you don't want to waste people's time, right? That's a big part of it too. You don't want to waste people's time. You're like knocking on their door. Now you're going to introduce yourself briefly and add your credibility. I am so-and-so and I do X and I have been on X podcasts or been featured in blah, blah. But you don't even have to do that necessarily. If you don't have that, it doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. Still proceed. Now you're going to add particular subjects that really would be great to focus on. This is where your prep comes in, right? You're going to not just be a life coach or, I talk about business success. I'm a success coach. Like what? No. That is way too broad. So get into your skills and what particularly would be a good fit and give options. I would say at least 3, not more than 5. Let's say, 3. You need 3 options. These you would lay out in a bullet. You would put in bold the blurb of what it is. Like, I help women after divorce find their best life. Right? I just made that up, but I could, right? That could be an easy one for me to do, and how to access your best self after divorce. And so then I might write 1 to 2, let's say one sentence after that highlighted or not highlighted, bolded blurb in the bullet. I might write 1 sentence that gets a little more into that. You just want to keep it brief, but you want to have enough information. And then after the option, or you could say during, I would love to explore X with your audience. That's cool. And as I mentioned, you want to put in bold those topics that you can cover, but also put in bold who you are and what you do, right? That is important. And you could even bold, I specialize in X, right? Now, you don't have to have, remember, you don't have to have a big following. You don't have to have a book. You don't have to have a ton of experience. You have to be professional, and you have to show that you're interested and show that you can offer something specific and interesting. And even if they've covered it before, that's okay. I mean, if they have covered it before, I'd say that's a little harder, but yeah, if you can find a topic that's going to be unique to you that maybe they haven't covered before, that's exciting. That is always exciting to me. So next, you want to put your links in there. I will say yes to people that don't have big followings or don't have books, whatever. It's okay. It doesn't matter. If you show that you have experience and expertise in a certain thing, like NLP, I'm an NLP master, and I can show you how to use that to find success in business. That is super specific, and that would be so cool, right? So it's things like that that you can find that really, like, I don't love niching down, but I don't know why I feel like it's overused, but this kind of does just get that specificity that's going to be really attractive to someone. So, and you know, your story is important too, but it's how your story can help others. So you could say, even through my story, that's something that you definitely have experience with, that you can offer a little bit of insight on, and then how that's going to benefit the audience. Okay. A picture. Do you want to include a picture, a small one that's not going to fill up their inbox, that you could actually embed in the email? I like it. I like it as long as it looks good, or you could put it with your signature. I think it's great. I like it. I like it both in the signature and in the email. That's what Paige Pritchard did, and it worked. It worked like a charm. I mean, I skimmed her email and sent her a booking link just right then. There was no waiting. So you can get that kind of result. So if you want to follow up, now this is doing it, right? Like, you're going to have your sign off then with your name, and sign off with something that reflects you, that's kind and fun and reflects some professionalism, but still you. Like I say, in love and light, or something like that. Follow up. Do you want to follow up? If they send you a stock reply, great, follow up. Say, we cannot wait to hear back. Thank you so much. And if you want to include a little extra something, that's a great spot to do it. New pertinent info. I just thought of this topic too, with relation to your latest episode, that could be so amazing, or something like that. Brief, but put that in there. Be kind. Go easy. Don't hound them. Remember that the energy that you're putting into this email will show. You can sense desperation, right? We can all sense desperation in like a text message or whatever. Yeah, it shows. And you know what? You don't know when this actually could be a great fit 3 months down the road, 6 months down the road, right? It could be coming, and maybe the timing isn't there right now. And I thought, like, that's great for me. Like, I've got so many backed up in our folder of guest requests. And as I was preparing for this, I ran across a couple that were good. And I was like, ooh, this sounds interesting. Maybe I need to get back to them. So, and it might've been sent months ago, and that's okay. You know, just even if you want to follow up a month later or something like that, just to keep it on their radar, that's okay. But don't ask for an answer. Don't expect an answer. This is a very don't call us, we'll call you situation. Okay. I mean, it really is. And I'm sorry to say that, but the people that hound me, like, I still haven't heard back. I get other emails that say stuff like that. And I'm like, I didn't even ask for your email in the first place. So don't expect to hear back. Archive. Okay. So a few little extra items, you do want to just give it some life. Like Paige, as I mentioned, had her photo. It had a pretty signature. Again, if it's your PR person, get them to make it from you. Or if they really want it to be from them, they can still make it all about you. I don't want to see the PR person. I don't. So I'm sure your signature is lovely. Just make it small then. All right. So in my guide too, I have some examples of different things that can work. Like one that caught my eye, she said, I am so-and-so. The one that I mentioned, I asked for more information. She said, I am a spiritual growth coach and specializing in empowering women leaders and solo entrepreneurs. And my expertise in leadership, I believe that my expertise in leadership, spirituality, and personal development aligns perfectly with the core themes of the Amy Edwards Show. I would love the opportunity to discuss being a guest on your podcast and share actionable strategies for transformation. So that was one that I was like, tell me more. I need to know specifics. Like she could probably use this guide, but she's great. But that was just a little too vague, but it still caught my eye. So I love the way she gently phrased that. Like, I would love the opportunity. That's the opportunity, right? She didn't say, I would love for you to have the opportunity to have me on your show. So there's the general outline. I hope that this helps. I remember again, I cannot stress this enough. Include your links and your writing for skimmers. Make it look good, simple, clear, and give them specific options. Those are some of the highlights. Okay? And follow them on Instagram. Good Lord. If your PR person tell you to follow. If your PR person tell your client to follow them. No, you don't have to. But anyway, it's just a nice touch, right? It's just a nice touch.
This podcast is sponsored by Wands. Wands creates luxurious pleasure practice tools that help people become more connected to their bodies. They have a huge selection of incredible items like yoni eggs, the most gorgeous crystal pleasure wands you've ever seen, free bleed blankets, and my favorites, the trademarked glass CERVIX wand and the Venus wand, which is their heaviest wand made of stainless steel, and their new ecstatic vibrator. This company is woman-owned and creates products designed to help you become more connected to your body and your pleasure and support the healing of pelvic pain. Get yours today in their always discreet packaging at wands.com. That's wands with 2 A's, WAANDS.com, and use my link in the show notes to get 10% off or enter the code Amy Edwards at checkout. Again, that's wands, WAANDS.com. The Amy Edwards Show is sponsored in part by Higher Dose. Higher Dose creates wellness tech for everyone with tools, supplements, and body care. And I have 15% off for you with my code MAGIC15. Higher Dose has been featured in Goop, Glamour, Elle, Vogue, Bazaar, Allure, and more. I have their infrared pulsed electromagnetic field, or PEMF mat, which emits electromagnetic waves that mimic natural frequencies found in nature, stimulating and encouraging your body's natural recovery process. It also has 20 pounds of crystals in it and has shown to ease chronic pain, aid in exercise recovery and circulation, deepen your meditations, reduce stress, and improve total body relaxation. I also love their red light face mask. It stimulates collagen, reduces fine lines, regenerates cells, and it's soft and easy to use and store and even travel with. I'm a true fan of these items and more, like their glow serum. So I'm excited to offer you 15% off using my code MAGIC15. Go to the show notes. You can click through on the link right there. Or if you go to Higher Dose, just enter the code MAGIC15 for 15% off. HigherDose.com. This podcast is sponsored by The Collective ATX. If you're looking for the best in hair extensions, it's The Collective ATX. They do mine, and I won't go anywhere else. I've tried them all over the years, and finally, I've found what makes my real hair stronger and fuller, and even works with my natural curl. They keep all their extensions in-house, so there's no wait, and they specialize in no damage to your natural hair like traditional hair extension methods. Plus, they're pros at color and covering gray. I have literally never in my life been happier with my color. They were named a top 200 salon by Salon Today in 2023. They've changed my hair journey. Let them change yours. The Collective ATX link is in the show notes.
Okay, let's get into a few things about how to be a great guest. So maybe you've got your booking. Congratulations. How are you going to show up as a guest? So here are just a few tips from a podcast host and someone who has been a guest many times. Show up on time, be ready for video. Assume it's going to be video. If I'm talking about if you're doing Zoom here, right? Assume it's going to be actually in person too. Assume it's going to be on video, be ready. Show that you care, right? If you need to reschedule, then do it. Like, don't be rushed. Don't be out of sorts. Don't not have your shit together, right? Just give them a little bit of advance warning, like, I am the type of person though that does not care if someone reschedules. I do not care. I believe that it's going to come when it's supposed to come. I look forward to every guest. I know that it's going to happen when it's supposed to happen, and I want them to feel good in the moment. So I don't care about reschedules. Maybe there's some podcast hosts that do. I don't. Like, there's a lot of other things to get worked up in this lifetime, and that is not one of them, right? Let's reschedule. Sure, whatever is going to work for you. Let's make it work. Okay. Prepare and do a little research. So you don't even have to listen to their show. And I don't care if people listen to my show or not. It's nice if they do, but just figure out what their audience is into and what they are interested in. Like I said, make sure you're following them on Instagram and go through their Instagram a little bit so you can kind of get a feel for things. Maybe look at their website, something like that. And just get your feet wet a tiny bit. It literally takes 5 minutes. You can do this in 5 minutes. You can do this 10 minutes before the show. Once you get good at it, it takes no time. My prep is so fast when I do that. You don't have to listen to an episode. If you do want to listen to an episode, speed it up, put it on 2.0, listen to it fast, get a feel. That's all you have to do. Get your specific topic and focus in mind. Even if they said, I just want to book you, get that topic in mind and think about, like, I did one with some women and I knew that they wanted to talk about motherhood. And I knew it was coming out around Mother's Day. And so they had not been specific. They had reached out to me and were very kind, but they just wanted my perspective, right? So I was left to think about, what do I really want to hone in on and make my message for this podcast? It's nice to have that foundational solidity. And you may go off on tangents and they may ask you questions all over the place, but you'll have that as kind of your core and base to come back to. So for me, in that instance, I thought, gosh, I sit with it for a minute and I think, what's really on my mind right now? And for me, I thought a lot about my own mother's death and Mother's Day and what that means to me and how that guides me and what I've learned. And so I ended up telling the story of my mother's death and how I was there for it. And I was pregnant at the time. And it led to a really interesting conversation. And I can't remember right now what my deeper message was, but I had just a message to give to them, these women who were, probably 15 years younger than me, maybe more. And there were two hosts. And so it ended up being a really beautiful conversation because I was coming from this foundation. And have several stories in your pocket that relate to this. Even if you just need to just write a little note like, oh yeah, okay, I've got these 3 stories on lock that I can pull from, because people want to hear little stories throughout. Those add that color to you as a guest that makes such a difference and that show your experience and that you know where you're coming from. Have those ready to go. I did one with Jocelyn, who is the unmessable with. I tend to mess that up. Unmessable with. And that episode is so freaking phenomenal. She told stories that were so incredibly poignant and powerful about her own getting to be unmessable with. If you haven't listened to that episode, I'll try to remember to put a link in the show notes. So phenomenal. And the way that she's a coach, the way that she coached, but also told her own stories was just extremely powerful. So that's a great example. Also, actively listen and engage. Don't be afraid to ask the host a question. Okay, this is tossing a ball back and forth. It's not as much. You're going to hold the ball longer and then toss it back, right? And so many times I have people that, finish an answer and then just stop, right? And you're being tossed the ball and then you're just holding it. You want to maybe give it a little toss back. Not every time, but you're not waiting for a new ball, right? This is a conversation. So it's an art, okay? So you want to ask them a question, not too many. That's the art part of it. But the back and forth, the tossing the ball back could look something like ending an answer with, would you agree with that? Or have you seen that in your own experience or your own life? Or have you heard anything about that? And then that gives them the opportunity to say, you know what? Yeah, golly, that totally resonates with me. And it brings up this other question that I have for you, right? And it doesn't just cold stop. That is the art of it. And that is part of the active engagement that can be so beautiful. You don't want to get too far into, you're not interviewing them and they don't want to be interviewed. They might want to offer a little something. I've definitely been interviewed by people that want to offer a lot. And I think sometimes I do it too, probably a little too much. But the audience likes to hear that, right? So a story here and there from them is great too. So you want to have this give and take, but you also want to remember that you are there to keep talking. You are there to be the guest and you are there to talk and you are there to share. So keep talking. So be in the moment, but be there to speak. If they asked you a question and you went off on a tangent, that is okay. If you forgot what the question even was, I mean, like I've had guests do this and I will do this and stop and say, I totally went off on a tangent. Bring me back to the question. What was the question? Where are we? And they will, right? And then it's fun. And it shows that you're present, which I think is part of the best thing. You're not reciting a stock answer that you've done 35 times in the last week, right? You are really there being yourself, listening and sharing from your heart, not so much your head, but your heart. Not that those things in your head aren't going to get on lock, but you're going to find ways to come from your heart and tell those messages with your own stories. That's part of that story episode that I was telling you about. Then also, like when you do that kind of focus and prep beforehand, have a last thought in mind. Don't be afraid to say, hey, if they're starting to sign off, don't say, hey, before we go, could I share one more thing? If there's something that you didn't get to in the episode that you really wanted to share, do it. Pipe up, say it. I always let them know I'm doing that at the end. I'm like, I'm going to ask you at the end, is there anything we missed? Is there anything that we didn't get to or anything on your heart that you really want to reiterate or say before we go? So I leave them the floor. So you can claim that space for yourself at the end. Be ready to do that. If they start to wrap up and you're like, oh, wow, we're done. Stop and say, wait, could I say one more thing before we go? And they're always going to say, yes, of course. And so then you're able to concisely say, I just want to leave your audience with this thought. I want them to know that their best life is accessible to, and whatever, And so then keep it, clear. And then I don't know if the host is going to give you time to mention how people can find you, but you can always tack it on to the end of that. And I am always here for anyone that wants to learn that. I'm being the guest right now. I'm always here for anyone that wants to learn that. You can connect with me easily on Instagram. I'm so easy to find. I always reply to my DMs at Real Amy Edwards. Here's my website, blah, 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 right? Or I have free offerings, fun free offerings on my website. The quiz I mentioned is there, whatever. So that's a great little space at the end. Always have that on lock and be prepared to do that, right? Or maybe they're going to give you a space. Hey, how can everybody find you? And then you can rattle those things off. Don't be surprised by it. Be ready to go. Now, once the episode's done, if you want to be a great guest, it doesn't end there. You have to share, you have to promote. And it doesn't take much. It literally can just be shared a story a lot of times, or hitting that collaborative post or collaborative reel. Just share it, promote it. If you have a newsletter, put it in there too. Offer to do that. If they add you on social, share it. I mean, add you as collaborator. It's your voice, and anyone following you wants to hear more from you. Plus, it's kind. I have had people that have not shared, and it is so such a little tiny kick. I don't expect it anymore. I ask for it pointedly. It's any sharing is beyond appreciated. Will you share this in your newsletter? I do ask, but I've had people that just don't. And people with big followings too, a lot bigger than mine. And I would be really excited for them as a guest and think, this is great. This is really going to resonate with a lot of people. And then the episode won't do that well because I had one, that person didn't share at all, not on their story, nothing. I was so sad because I thought it was such a good episode. And not that I'm not going to get it out, sure, but it matters, and it shows that you care. And it doesn't matter. I've done podcasts that are not big names, of course, and I still share them. I liked the host. I enjoyed talking to them. So share it. I can think of another one that didn't share that had a really big following. We're talking I don't know how many on TikTok and 400,000 on Instagram or something. And I was nervous because I knew this person had done a lot of podcasts. And so I really wanted to show up and give my best. Not that I don't always, I do. But for this one, I just got a little nervous. Well, the guest didn't seem ready. Was traveling and in a weird spot, did it on their phone. The sound was terrible. I can fix sound, but the sound was terrible. And it just seemed oh yeah, let me get this done for you. Okay. Doing me a favor. Right. And I don't know. That made me sad. It kind of threw me off. I guess my expectations were, you're such a professional that it would be that level. And instead it was the opposite. And it just felt rushed. And then it was never shared. And I worked hard to create a good clip too, which I always do. But anyway, it just matters. No matter what level you are, share. I'll tell you the best example of this, Garen Jones. If you don't know Garen, Garrain, Garen is so giving. He has a massive following. He has 500,000 followers or something. And I met him and I loved his energy and everything that he shares. And I was like, would you do my podcast? And he immediately said yes. And I was like, wow, cool. Showed up, gave his best, and shared, followed me. No ego. Blew me away. And you know what? Garen is genuine. He has that following because of who he is. I love that guy. I can't say enough good things about him. I would have him on the show again tomorrow. Have I had him on twice? I think I've only had him on once. And he happens to live here in Austin too. So that made the connection easier. But I just was blown away by his giving. And I said, why did you say yes so fast and easily? And he said, because I remember what it's like to be starting out, and I want to support anybody that's doing that, and I want to make time for it. And I was just that makes me want to cry just hearing that. That is so cool. So even if you're at one level, you can still show up and give your best. And that's putting in reps, and it's just putting your money where your mouth is. It's being the person that you say you are, which is what this show's all about too. We are about living your authentic truth and voice. And that is so much of what this is. Now, a podcast pitch, you got to do it. You got to structure it a way that's going to get across. Sure. And you want to get better at your message. And no, you know what? Your first draft of your pitch, it might fall flat, and that's okay. You can wait till next year. You may have more to offer, and you could pitch that same person. Doesn't matter. Let it show up again. They'll be like, oh, I recognize this name. Oh, wow, this looks really good. Now they have a new ebook that sounds really cool. It's got 5 steps. I love the number 5, whatever it is. All right. So I will have examples in the guide, and it's easy to download. And I'm recording this and don't even know how I'm putting that in there, but it'll be there. So it'll be easy for you to find. And I hope this helped. I hope it gave you some tips. If you have any extra questions, I think you can comment on Spotify or YouTube if you're watching there, or you can always email me, reach me, amy@amyedwards.com, hello@amyedwards.com. You can DM me on Instagram at @realamyedwards. I am very reachable. I'm very findable and very reachable. So reach out, reply to my newsletter. I always see all the replies to my newsletter. If you could leave a review for the show, those are much appreciated. I would love that. And yeah, I guess that's it. Thank you. Remember, I just can't stress this enough. You have value to add. Why not get your voice out there? What if you help one person? Wouldn't that matter? I would have loved to have heard like my dad on podcasts or something like that. Like, what if you do this? You are worth it. Abso-freaking-lutely. Absolutely. That's right. That's one level higher than absolutely. I don't know why I said that. Oh, I love you. And this was coming from a place of love. And blessings to the person that sent me the example email that I used. Thank you to her. And thank you for her nice response after I sent the response I did. She was very kind. And so I just feel like everybody's got a lot to offer. So put your best foot forward. It's totally possible, and put in those reps. You're going to get better and better. You got to start somewhere. So do it. I can't wait to hear your pitches. Don't send them all to me, or maybe do. I don't know. Maybe do. We'll see. Maybe I'll have you on the show. I love you so much. Thank you so much for being here. Keep shining. Just shine away. Let your light shine. I love you. Till next time.
This has been the Amy Edwards Show from Overcome Studios. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe. And thank you so much for being here. Sign up for our newsletter at amyedwards.com.